So here we are, Wi-Fi okay. Let's see, mic on, clipped. Put the sound off. Is this going to be live? Let's see. No idea. I think I'm all set to go. Those bells, that's the staff just leaving. It's funny, we close off the morning stream when the staff arrives. And now we're starting this evening stream just as they leave, so. Just touching up the blade here. This is the last of the 3 sharpening stones we use. This is the Shiagito, the finest stone. Okay, I'm going to pick up just exactly where I left off this morning. Oops, if I can zoom in without making people seasick. Sorry, excuse me just a minute here. Sorry about this. Find the right zoom. We're going to pick up right about here. Bring in the light. Okay, I do believe I'm ready to go. Nice and sharp. But also dirty fingernails now from the mud and the sharpening stone. Can't be helped. Can't have everything. Let's just take a couple of these at a time. we've got part of the image masked out here, trying to be better safe than sorry. I still don't know how Twitch's policy is going to play out on this. So at the moment, whatever, just to sort of be better safe than sorry, keeping it under cover. But once I get to the color separation part and doing the printing, the image is going to be out there. The camera is going to be zoomed, not zoomed in so close. We're going to be able to see the whole thing. So, and I'd like to sort it out with them before I get that far, rather than just have danger of being shut down. So, but I'm a bit nervous if I write to them now and ask about it. I might get shut down now. I don't know. So I'm just sort of hanging on and not procrastinating, just postponing, having to sort of sort that out. Somebody posted the other day in one of these sessions in the chat there that Twitch themselves are trying to sort out a new policy on this. And that they've announced that there's a policy on it coming up so that people know where they stand. What's art, what's porn, what's not, I don't know, whatever. So there might be clarification coming soon. I don't know. I hope so. Just sharpened it, so the tip of this thing is really a little bit fragile. I'm trying to be really careful here. It's very common just after sharpening to pop off the tip of the knife, and ask questions. No. I know questions, nothing to do with upgrading Twitch account. I know I upgraded the panels yesterday. If you scroll down, if you're on a computer, if you scroll down below the video window, you'll see a new section there, a bunch of new sections. And one of them is about questions and how to ask questions. I know I've got a specific mail account set up that's running in a window that I can easily read while I'm doing these. Or even just throw the question in the chat right now. It's just getting started. There's so few people here, I can notice it. Unless it gets busy real soon. Just throw the question in here. Okay, that's that zone. Let's finish off this wall here. I tried to finish this particular tentacle this morning, but didn't have time before the shop opened, so I'm sort of trying to catch up what I wanted to do this morning. Not like it makes any difference, but Question. Don't write or read Japanese very well. I actually can read it fairly okay. I know I don't write it in the sense of picking up a pencil and a pen and making the shape of the characters. That's something that doesn't come to you just by living here. You actually, of course, have to go through the bajillion hours of practice at doing it. Step 1, step 2, step 3. I've never ever done that. I made the decision not to go that way. I was an adult when I came here, 35, 36. And it's X hours in a day, and it's the game worth a candle. So I just said, no thanks. I'll try and improve my speaking skills, but I won't write. I just didn't see it as being worthwhile. But then the obvious question is, when you're carving calligraphy, what's going on here? And that's a different story. Yeah, you have to understand the stroke order. What I mean is that when somebody draws a character here, they do it in a very specific way. It's not just random. Like whatever the character is, you'd start at the top left, stroke down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And there's a very rigorously defined stroke order for each and every character. And it's not just a matter of being strict. There's a real meaning. The brush flows a certain way. There's a certain natural way to read the characters when the brush is flown that way. So if you give me brand X character, someone that I don't know, that's outside of my repertoire, I can't read it, but I can understand how it's constructed because they're all made of the same basic fundamental strokes, just put together in different ways. So I can carve these things even without being able to read them. And when I did the poet series, the 100 Poets series back in the 1980s and 90s, the poetry on those prints, this is from an old era, it was in an archaic writing style that modern Japanese also can't read. But, okay, where should I go next? Let's do this piece. Even though, Mrs. Suzuki, whatever modern Japanese person couldn't read that calligraphy, she could still see it and see how beautiful it was and see the characters and see the shape. So I was in exactly the same position as modern Japanese people. I could carve it and understand it and catch the beauty, but I didn't know all the characters. So it sounds a bit strange to Westerners. How could you understand it or think that it's beautiful and yet still not be able to read it? Whatever. I know the easy answer to that is Japanese calligraphy is partly for the purpose of communicating words, and it's partly a beautiful thing in its own right. And we sort of had that a little bit in the West. There was calligraphy in the old style of when they used to do, Bibles or something, whatever. So the words were there, but it was also the beauty in the thing was there. We don't do that anymore in the West. But in Eastern cultures, Asia, Japan and China, writing is meaning, and it can also be beautiful or not. What I would do with that, when I was doing that poetry series, I know there was one of my kids' school friends, her mother was a calligraphy teacher. I didn't get to the extent of taking classes with her, but when I got to a character that I couldn't figure out, how do I carve this? I went over to her. She knows nothing about carving, but she would just take her finger and draw in the air. No, you do it like this. You write down, across, down, through there, down, across, down. And she'd go over it with me until I got it right. Then I'd go back to my bench and I would carve the same way, down, across, over there, through that thing, down, across. And then the people reading it would see that it was correct, I'm sorry, without sort of having an example to show you, just I'm just making noise here, but The other funny thing about, not being able to write Japanese, like with the brush and stuff here, is that I'm in very good company with almost every Japanese under the age of 20 or so. Or whatever age, I don't know what number. Kids these days are not learning to write so much. They're typing on computers, they're typing on their smartphones. Smartphones are just reading what people say to them. There's a real feeling in the air here now that the next generation will not know how to write properly. It's way worse than in the West, Anybody in the West, even if you play with a smartphone, you can still make ABC and write words. But here, if you don't go through the years of training to remember all those, 2,000 odd characters that are in common use, and if you don't practice them, then that's it. You're out of the water. You're dead. And kids are not doing that these days. Okay, let's define my area. Where am I working? I think if I go around the outside here. So. I got hit by that on a Reddit thread a while ago. I did a video in Japanese, speaking Japanese, to the Ghibli people. I mean, many of you, I'm sure, have seen it. The request to Ghibli to try and, work together with us to make prints of their images. I did it in Japanese because I was, trying to speak to the Ghibli people directly. And I can speak okay. When I'm chatting with people and talking, I can speak okay. But that was a specific presentation I was trying to make, so I wrote it in advance together with my staff here. And I put it into a teleprompter, into my teleprompter. So doing that video, it's Dave reading a teleprompter, which is already a stage unnatural, and then reading Japanese, which I don't do smoothly and cleanly, and then of course in my second language, and trying to make it look natural at the same time. So it came out pretty dorky, and in that Reddit thread, there's some comments from some people. My God, this is cringeworthy. This guy's been in Japan for 30 years, and it sounds like that. And well, what can I say? Just suck it up. I can actually speak okay, but okay, there's the area outlined. Now let's get the suckers. Oh, this octopus print, yes. You posted it on Reddit. You mean that Ghibli one? It's okay, whatever. I'm not trying to be negative about it, Reddit is so good to me, actually. I shouldn't say anything negative about them. They're so polite to me. They're so appreciative of the work. Any Reddit thread that goes on, Same on YouTube, when we put the videos up, the comments on YouTube, they're 99.999% positive. Such a wonderful experience on social media, it's really, really heartwarming. And here too on Twitch so far, somebody said, it's going to get bad, but I ain't seen any sign of that yet. Don't really expect to. This corner of the wood where I am here, it's a specifically a bit of a soft spot, I sure hope I'm not going to get in trouble when it gets to the face. Sorry about spinning it a bit there. I'm going to try and keep that down. I know. There's been a number of people asking me about that. Not complaining, but they're mentioning that the viewport is so tight, the view is so much closed in, that when I suddenly rotate the block, they get dizzy. I don't feel it because I'm like driver, but when you're a passenger, you know. Nothing in the question box today. I see the gentleman that's just come online here. I don't know, gentleman, lady, whatever. Wrote me an email earlier today or yesterday, whatever day or time or whatever it was, making some suggestions about the way I should handle the audio here. And I took the suggestions this morning, made that setting that you asked for. So you can maybe, whatever, let me know if it's okay or not. At the moment it's set for -30. And if you like, I can experiment with it and change it while you're listening, so you can let me know how the result is. Compared the streams of one yesterday, you could really tell the difference in the white noise. Okay, good. Thank you very much for that then. Good. It's not something I would have found or thought of by myself. So thank you very much. I'm a bit nervous that you say made it home in time. So I'm a bit nervous now. People are like speeding through town, running red lights, trying to get home in time for this stream, you know. Please don't kill anybody. Including yourself. Excuse me a minute, gotta get the pad back here. There was a visitor in the shop today here from a university in America. I think it's someplace in San Antonio, he said. I didn't quite actually get the town he was from, but he's been here at a workshop in Japan practicing printmaking for the past few weeks. And before going home to America, he came over to introduce himself and see what we're doing and stuff like that. Nice conversation. He hung around a lot yesterday and all day today. While he was here, we were, whatever, conversation went a million different ways. And one thing that came up was something about some particular aspect about carving, and I couldn't explain it, so I had the idea that, okay, I'll show you a bit of a video I've got here. And I remembered that I've got some old video program from, it's 1959 or something. It wasn't video in those days, it was a film presentation. And we've got an old dub of it, 1957 or something. Anyway, long story short, we were watching, so I put up on my iMac, and we're watching this clip of craftsmen working in 1957. Well, 1957 is not so much the old days, but those guys they're all gone now. Bit of a different generation from the people here today. Although I'd give my right nut to be able to see video of, people like in the Edo time or Meiji time. We know that's not going to happen, so go with what you got. So, and we're watching this thing today, and this is one of those things that you watch it, and that's cool, and you get some things out of it. And maybe you come back and see it again a bit later, and you notice something else. And even today, when we were watching it with this guy who was seeing it for the first time, his mouth is on the floor. Oh my God, look at this. But I've seen this, I don't know how many times, 20, 30, whatever. And yet watching it with him today, he said, wait, look at that, look what the guy did there. And I'm like, what's that? We rewound it and played. And he'd noticed a specific motion that the printer made that I had never seen before. And once we noticed it, I got exactly what the guy was doing, and look at that. I never noticed that. So there's no end to this, there's no end to what you're going to learn and what you're going to pick up. And it just made me try and remember, Dave, don't be such a freaking know-it-all that, you've got a bunch of good knowledge here, but there's still lots more, And a very fun experience, very interesting experience. I'm looking forward now to some of our printers getting here on Monday, because I want to show this to them. Look at this. We found something new. And I guess it'll be passed forward, We're going to make a video about this octopus print being printed, of course, and stuff like that. And people are going to see it, and more people are going to see it, and away it goes. Because nobody else here is making these kind of presentations. The knowledge is just so locked up. Not because they're super secret, just because they're, whatever. Who cares? Why bother to do this sort of thing? But I'd love to go back in time and watch these presentations, I could learn so much faster. Hard spot there, be careful. Sometimes you don't see it till you actually get into the wood, and then you feel all of a sudden resistance. And if you don't back off instantly, bang, there goes the tip of the knife. Hey, that sounds like a question. Just a sec here. So you can do both when the chat's not so busy. Yeah, here, okay, what do we do? Let's see, Twitch questions. Yeah, the question in the email here is about the video I made with the carver Ito-san. You know, the long video that's got a bajillion views. 500,000 views, whatever. And in that video I mentioned that one of the really important things I learned from him was carving to fine hairlines. I think I rambled and said, okay, one day I got to make a video about this. One day I got to make a video about this. And then, you know, things go on and things go on. And that was a year ago. But yeah, it's already on the books. It's on the plan. Obviously this, can I move the block here? This block has a bunch of classic ukiyo-e hairlines, just exactly right. They angle this way, they angle that way. They come forward at the tip of her head. And there's a real difficult section here where they come forward to a hairline. So they've got to come down and stop at a line. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 basic techniques involved there. And you bet, it'll be whatever live on Twitch, but absolutely, I'm going to specifically cut bits out of that and make the video that everybody's waiting for, the tutorial on how to cut ukiyo-e hairlines. Absolutely. I think what I'm going to do is when it gets to that part, I'm not going to try and do this myself. I'm going to get Aoyama-san, our helper upstairs, to get another camera on me. And we'll try and do it like from 2 camera angles and whatever. So yeah, long answer, I'm sorry. Yes, we are going to do that. When it will be a few weeks from now, I guess, when I get there. Finish the tentacles first, finish the body, finish the dots. Save the face for last, absolutely. So that I'll be in shape. And that's the thing, you know. I haven't carved steadily like this in a long time, and it's a thing. I need to get back to it. But there was another question, wasn't there, in the chat there? Nails. I gotta cut them more often. People are always complaining, Dave, cut your nails. It's the same with my hair, you know. I'm not sure what to say about this. I'm careless with these things. I'm careless with my appearance. I'm sorry. You know. I don't know. It's just whatever. Stuff gets too long and gets in the way, and then I remember. And but no, I'm blocking the knife with my hand, but it's nothing to do with the nails. If you cut your nails right off, it wouldn't make any difference. I guess they are getting long again. I wonder if it's possible, Anno, to, while doing a Twitch stream like this, if I had some video ready and prepared on my Mac, can I put that video into the Twitch stream as another source? Because that video I was just talking about just now, that old carver and printer, that might be something cool to do, you know. It's long out of copyright. It's something that was done around when I was born. And that might be cool one day in one of these streams, if I'm trying to explain a point, and here, let me show you how it was done by this real pro from 1950. I'll have to look into that, see how to run. I'm sure it's possible. This broadcast software seems like it does all kinds of mixing and stuff. Oops, I was supposed to warn before turning. Sorry about that. Okay, the inside's done. Let's do the outside. Video on screen through Twitch extension. I'm using OBS, so I think it allows me to tee up other video sources. It's you know, I'm not going to play with it right now, but I'll look at it tonight. So I think if I prepared a QuickTime video clip that I wanted to show, then put it in OBS as a scene, I think. Is that what it's called? I don't know. Or put it in as one more item in this scene. Hide it until I'm ready to play. Whatever, I'll look it up tonight. That would be fun. Today's guest, long dead Midas on the Carver. Also, as I mentioned a couple of times this past week while I've been doing this, we are absolutely going to go upstairs. We're going to take my camera and a laptop and stuff and go upstairs and do a session with the printers upstairs. I know, I'm not sure about the time of day because I've been doing these things now before the shop opens and after the shop closes. And if I want to do the printers, I got to do it sometime between that time. So it would be, say, something like 1 o'clock in the afternoon Japan time, which would be about 9 o'clock in California, midnight in New York, getting a bit late. But anyway, it can't be helped. I can't ask the girls to come in, you know, at night or something. Yeah, pick a day when all three of them are up there, Aimi-san, Ishikawa-san, and Suga-san. Then set up the camera first on one of them, see what they're doing. I can do the insert camera, do a commentary, answer questions, because I could easily read the chat. That would be very cool. So stand by, you know. A break from octopus tentacles, I mean, right? I'll turn here. The downside was doing a session upstairs with the printers, you know, it's quite different from the YouTube videos I make, like the one we did last week with Suga-san. What you saw there was like 4 or 5 days of work for her, clipped and condensed into one 20-minute video. We saw one color, then right away the next color, the next color. But if I'm up there in the workroom shooting them live, it's not going to be like that. She's doing one color. It's going to take her 2, 3, 4 hours, depending on the size of the block. So there'd be much more repetition of a single thing rather than seeing a whole bunch of different things, you know. But anyway, it will be interesting. Let's do it. There's a question. The other day too, I'm not sure if I should say this. I think it's okay. I'm not quite sure. Sometimes talking about people. Suga-san, we did that video, the YouTube video on YouTube showing her printing one of Jed Henry's yokai series, and I had to, really sort of chat her up to convince her to be okay to do it, and convince her that the internet wasn't going to rain down abuse on her or something, And she went for it, and it turned out okay. The comments on the video were very, very nice. And one of them, somebody said, Suga-san is so cute. And when she's almost crying when she saw that. This is a young lady, she's whatever. I'm not going to talk about her age and stuff, but whatever. And her self-image is probably okay, but just to have people on the internet happy with her and say, thank you for doing this. And then somebody says, you're so cute. And she almost starts crying, you know. It's so cool. I guess we took a tiny bit of a gamble in doing that, but it turned out very well. She's a real nice girl. She's trying so hard. She really, really, really wants to get good at this. She's maybe at a little bit of an age where she doesn't think she has too many more chances anymore. You know, nobody in Japan wants to hire, quote, you know, middle-aged lady. But so she really, really wants to be good at this, and she's working so hard to get good. It's all very well to like have people come in here who are already skilled, but to have someone come in who is okay, but with a desperate desire to really, really get better, that's even better, you know. I think it was okay to say that about her. I think so. I'm not quite sure. Never sure. Anyway, there was a question. Where are we? What does it say? That's okay. There's a question here about carving the front and back edge of the line. It's a technical question. I tried to answer it. Was it last night I got tongue-tied about that, or was it this morning? I'm really getting confused because sometimes similar questions come back. I think it was this morning. Somebody tried to ask about carving the far side of the line and the close side of the line and the flat side of the blade, and I got totally, absolutely scrambled trying to answer it, and it was a total disaster. And the question you're answering now, actually just before, where am I? I'm lost. Where am I? Oh, here we are, over in this corner, sorry. And if I try and answer that question now, carving the front side of the line, the back side of the line, and what angle, I'm going to be in the same position. I'm going to get totally tongue-tied. What I need to answer that question about line angles is a much wider field of view than what we've got here. So I'm not sure what to do here. Can I answer it in a more generic way without trying to get to samples? Let me answer it generically first without trying to demonstrate with actually what I'm doing. These days, you've seen me turning this block round and around and around. So as a result, and I'm also holding the knife mostly in the same position. It's in front of me, held down under my nose. I'm looking over my nose down at the knife as it moves into the wood. So as a result, look, I go along this line here, and then maybe even rotate the block a little bit more. So the knife is pretty much always under my nose at the same angle. So myself, along with pretty much everybody who's carving these days now, carves this way by rotating the block and keeping the knife at the same angle. This is not actually all that bad because it means the what can I say, the bevel on the mountain. I know the finished line, this line's going to stand here. It's got an angle on one side of it. That angle stays now pretty much consistent because we keep rotating the block, keep the knife in the same position, and cut. So if you were looking at this finished line, you would see it beveled off like a mountainside, going from the peak, bevel down to the mountain base. That's the 20th century way of doing things. It's not how they did it back in the old days. The downside of having a block carved that way is that when you're brushing the pigment on, the pigment gets brushed up the mountain slope, a little bit is on top of the mountain, and then the pigment falls off the other side, and little bits of it gather at the other side of the mountain slope. Does this make sense? Yeah. If you think about the mountains as sort of a mesa, there's a flat part at the top, which is the line you're going to print, and there's this angle thing that falls away at both sides. So these days that angle is the same all around. So the pigment gets swept up the slope across the top of the mountain, and then bits of pigment start to fall down the slope on the other side, and they stay there at the top. So the lines get a little bit fatter and murkier and less precise than they should be. I don't know if this is making any sense, but I'm going to try. Now I'm going to press on here. So what we want, ideally, is a slope that goes up the mountain at a soft angle. The pigment's being pushed by the brush up to the top. And then we want the back side of the mountain to drop off in a precipice. So no pigment ends up being bunched at that far side of the flat top of the mountain. I think that might make sense, okay? So the printer is sitting there. He first dumps the pigment on all over randomly. Then he swirls the brush around randomly, just pushing the pigment everywhere, all over the block, up in the mountains, in the valleys, everywhere. The whole block gets black. Then as his final few strokes, the printer moves the brush away from his belly across the block, softly, 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 so all his final strokes are in one side. It's now pushing the pigment up the near side of the mountains, across the top and down the back side. And if the back side of the mountains, as seen from the printer, were sharp drop-offs, it prints much more smoothly and cleanly. And that's the way the blocks were carved, at least up to Meiji time, and some even maybe in the early part of the 20th century, up to before the war. And to do it that way, the carver carves without rotating the block and cuts every line at an angle that he thinks gets close to that goal. If it's a line that he knows is going to be towards the printer at printing time, he puts that slow bevel on it. If it's a line that's going to be the far side from the printer's point of view, drop off. It was called katagiri bori, and there's nobody on the planet now who can do it consistently and well. Although my friend Asuka Sensei, he doesn't rotate the block so much, and he's much closer to it than I am. And if I were, pick a number, 14, 20 years old, whatever, 25 years old, whatever, if I were a kid starting out again on this, and if I knew about this, if I had read about it in a book or had heard about it, that'd be it. I would say, I am now going to forget about rotating the block. I'm going to train myself to carve that katagiri bori style like the old guys did. And my God, it would be difficult. Honton, it would be difficult. There's a million things I can't explain as I'm sitting here how to do it. Me and Asuka Sensei, we know about it. We know how to do it theoretically, but the flexibility you would need in your wrist, there's no way. I'm 65. I cannot even think about starting all over again now. He's 65 as well. So, but if I were that young kid who didn't have already too much bad practice under his belt doing it the wrong way, I think I'd shoot for that. But then again, this assumes the existence of a publisher who's going to sit there and publish prints that this would make any sense on, you know. The modern stuff the other publishers are putting out is just so much crap, it wouldn't make any difference. They're going to who cares? So you'd either have to publish yourself or be in cahoots with somebody who would make this into something. Wouldn't that be fun? You're talking to some old dude who just says, I wish I was young again, like this is something original, you know. That's something else on the list. I guess we should make a video about that, explaining it, because the number of people who actually know about this is, I don't know, pretty much down to, well, you know about it now, but I mean the number of people who understand it, it's down to 2 or 3 of us, and I should at least get together with Asuka Sensei and sort of document what we know about this. You know, we're only 65, but who knows? Time. It's coming though. We're doing more videos. We're going to get things. Get things going here. Oops, wrong way around. Wood grain is the other way here. Nice clean wood here. Hey, today, this question as a carver, how do you know in which direction? We know. I know this block I'm doing right now, that if you look at it in the normal orientation, you know, if you think about the finished print, I've already carved the registration marks down there. So one is at the bottom left, the bottom right, and one is partway along near the left-hand corner. So the printer will put that part of the block near his belly. So as a carver already, because I've carved the registration marks in here, I know exactly the orientation that this block is going to be. So that thing I was talking about the old days where the carvers were trying to carve these mountains with steep drop-offs, they positioned the block on their bench the other way around, upside down. This woman in the octopus would have been, from the carver's point of view, upside down, with the registration marks on the side of the block away from him. I guess I can explain a bit more of this. It's words. He would put the block upside down, registration marks away from him. So think about this now. If the printer wants that slope on the side facing towards the printer, when you are now the carver, if you've put the block there upside down, you're thinking the far side of those lines is the part that has to be the gentle slope. And the side of the line that's closest to the carver is the side that has to be the drop-off. Maybe we can do this. Look, let me grab the knife. I'm left-handed, but it's a right-handed knife, so I'm going to pretend for a minute that I'm right-handed. Let's find a line. Whatever, this line. Let me face the camera horizontally. So, oh no, I can't see what I'm doing. Okay, so let's imagine now that there's the horizontal. There's the horizontal. Oh, I don't even have a. Just a minute. Give me a break here. Okay, there's a road. Okay, imagine this line. This is this block. There we are. This is the block horizontal. So I'm now the carver. I've put the wood upside down. So this is the side of the line that's closest to me. That's the side that needs the drop-off. And over there, that's the side of the line that will be closest to the printer. Right? I'm not doing this upside down. Let me look into OSB for a minute here. OBS. Just a minute. Let's check this again. This is the side now I'm touching. That's going to be closest to me. Because I've put the block upside down. That's right. You guys are looking at it from the camera's point of view. Okay, I see it now. The camera over there is looking at it as though he's a printer sitting there. And I'm looking at it from the other side, so I'm a carver. That's okay. So I'm the carver here. This side needs to be the drop-off side. That side needs to be the gentle side. So here's the deal. The guy's hand, let me try and get it in here. He would carve the knife, put the knife in at a really like a 45-degree angle. I don't know if you can see this. Carve that line here, moving along the line. So that side would catch that slope. And then when it got to this side, what he would do first here, he would carve a relief cut here, well away from the line, not in the wood, and then stand his knife up. Can you see it? Let me get my hand out of the way, just put the knife in there by itself. He would stand the knife up and take it along the other side of that line. So there you go. The knife would be in at this angle on one side of the line, 45 or so, and the knife would stand up and do the other side of the line. I don't know if all that made any sense, if this is the right time and place to try and explain this. I don't know. Let me try and get back to where I am here. Put my light back in place. I don't know, Dave. It just gets too complicated. I guess there's a time and place for each thing and whatever. When there's two lines really close together, when there's two lines really close together, that's going to be what we see at the hairline. So can I hold that part of the question till we get to the hair? Because there we've got lines that are really, really close together. How do all these angles affect things? I don't know. I just get so... I can see it and I can feel it. And if I had a blackboard, or if you were here and I can poke my finger on the block, it's okay. But trying to explain these things was just this tiny field of view. To a general audience, so I don't know, I'm sorry. Anyway. But you asked, so I gotta try. Did Bob Ross try and answer questions like that? I guess not, right? Did he ever do live stuff? I hear that so much. It's so much fun hearing that, you know, that it's too bad he's gone because we could do something together, you know. There are far worse people in the world to be compared to, you know. So. So, mail check, you heard two sounds there. The last one, you know, somebody's made a party reservation. Actually, I don't need to check that at all because it's already gone into our system. The staff has already been alerted automatically. It's gone into the online calendar so nobody else can book the same space. I don't have to do anything. It's all automatic. But the other one, I also heard the question sound. So just a minute, let me go and have a look. I hope it's a question I can answer without getting myself in trouble again. Oh, yeah. Thanks for reminding me about this. I totally forgot. I also realized how I could answer this too. Okay. Do you want to pop your question there about the hook-sized design? Good points, bad points. Pop that into the stream or something. It's a question just come in by email. The same question came in yesterday, and it flummoxed me for a minute. I couldn't think about how to answer it. And then I thought of a way, an answer to the question, but it is something that I can't show in this little limited viewport. The question was related to this design. You know, I've gone over this design now twice. I traced every part of it. Now I'm carving every part of it. So I'm kind of a quote unquote expert on hook size drawing of this lady and an octopus. And the question was, you know, is there anything about it that I've learned, and any parts that look something funny or strange? I forget the exact wording of the question, but yes. Okay, in order to answer it, you need the image in front of you. So those of you who are interested in this point, you have to go to the octopusprint.com. is the easiest way for you to get the image. The octopusprint.com, all one word. And you'll get a warning first that this is an erotic such and such. But if you're okay for it, then click through. And once you've got the image available to you on your screen somewhere, or I don't know if you can put this chat in a corner or something. I don't know. Put this stream in a corner. So I'll wait a minute here so that I can give everybody a chance to pick up the picture. Yeah, there's a link below the stream too if you can't spell or type or whatever. In the panels below the stream, there's a link to the Octopus Print website. So we get the picture. There's one picture on just the front page of that website, and when you click into the second main page, there's another example of it. So it's all over the site there. So. And what I've done there is that the image that you're seeing on the website there it's a pasted together version. This was a book. The original was a book. It had a left side and a right hand side, and they were carved on different blocks. And they only came together at the point of the book binding when the two sheets of paper got stuck together. But what I've done there is, of course, in the same way I'm carving it now. I'm not carving it on two pieces of wood like the original. I'm carving it on one piece. But okay, anyway, the person who asked the question, if you've got the image there, let me get my copy for reference. There's a real anomaly in this thing. There's a woman's body. There's rocks and seaweed and stuff. But maybe I should just switch over here. If I can just switch for a minute to the different view here. Hang on a sec. Here we go. I can speak more directly to you. I've got the camera here. There's the view there. There's the octopus, clearly an octopus. It's drawn like an octopus, lots of tentacles and stuff. Then there's the woman's body. We see her torso. Her left leg is up in the air. Her right leg goes off out of our view behind some of the rocks there. Her right arm is okay. It's clutching a tentacle. What are we seeing between her right hand and her right leg? There's something that is not colored as tentacle. There's a piece of something there. Is that her body? It can't be, because it's way below her her right leg. And then the way her right leg comes in with that curve, it doesn't work, so whatever. This guy is, one of the world's greatest artists, but I think in his sort of drawing here, he hasn't actually caught the way that this would really be. I mean, clearly he didn't have a model, a woman and an octopus here. But I think he screwed that up a little bit. The way her right leg meets her body is, I think, clearly a bit unnatural. And there's an unaccounted for white area there, which can't be her skin, it's not octopus, and it's not rock. And if we were an editor trying to get him to fix this before sending it to publication, we could have moved one of those tentacles a little bit and covered up that space so the problem disappears. While we're here, there was another question yesterday about the carving and how do you fix mistakes and stuff. And if you look, I guess I can show this. If you look up in this area of the octopus, the main curve of the octopus going down, just underneath the calligraphy, there's a break in the body of the octopus there. In the size of the picture I'm looking at right now, it's about a 1/4 inch or so. And there's a hint as to how that break happened, because the calligraphy right beside it, drops down, and you can see where the knife, when he was cutting the calligraphy, he banged into the octopus and chipped it out. And I would bet any amount that this is not a break that happened later on while printing was going on. This is a break that happened when he was carving. And we talked about this before in this morning session, you know, how much do you fix and how much do you leave? And this was a cheap book. And to stop and fix that would have cost him, I don't know, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, I don't know. And it's 15 minutes that he figured, I don't have that time, and away he went. Now, if it had been a single sheet print that was going to sell in the shops as a semi-art thing, then yeah, it would have had to be fixed. But 1 page in a porn book, give me a break, just go, go, go. Yeah, the colored lines on that block, they're misregistered. So don't get confused by the color. The orange doesn't match. If you look at the way the orange color is misregistered on the right-hand side of the sheet, not the left-hand side. Remember, the left was a different block. The right-hand side was a different block. So the orange octopus color is misaligned on the right-hand version, but not on the left-hand version. I guess that's something else we should try. I'm not even going to think about trying to explain it in words here as I sit here now. I'll just get totally tongue-tied. But that point I just made, that in the original, this thing is carved on 2 separate pieces of wood. The left side and the right side are separate. They might even have been carved by different people. They could certainly have been printed by different people. And in fact, in one of these copies I've got here, no, this is not the one. I should do a version on the web with different copies, you know. In some of the ones we see that are left over, some of the yellow seaweed color is missing from the left-hand side and not the right-hand side. It's due to the way Japanese books were bound, with the way the sheets were gathered together. The left side of one page is on a different block than the right side. And that's a bit of a, you know, a head scratcher. That all those books that had across the spread pictures were carved and printed by different people. Yeah, if you're curious about that left-right business, there's any number of copies of this image all over the net. Wikipedia has one, British Museum has one, different. The image will pop up. You can do Google search for it or whatever. And there's so many differences, Each time the book went to the printers, different people get it. And maybe the blocks would have been sold off at some point. The first publisher sells the blocks because he thinks it's like a sports team. You've carved your blocks and it's a good bestseller for you and it's doing really well. But the blocks have a specific shelf life. They're getting worn, they're getting worn, they're getting worn. And you've got somebody in a different, area. So maybe it's published by a Tokyo publisher first. Whatever, X area. I don't know this particular book, but I'm just speaking generally now. Your book is published in Tokyo. You print it off. You sort of saturate your local market. Everybody's got this thing now. And the blocks are starting to get worn, and there's only a certain amount of life left in this thing before they get too old to do the service. So you sell them. You sell them off to a publisher who's selling in Nagoya. And you sell them early enough so that there's still enough life left in them. It's just like a sports team with a star. How long do I hold on to this guy and when do I get rid of him? Because somebody else really needs this guy, but I'm pretty much finished with him. And the blocks would be sold off. And we've got a bunch of these things where there's no yellow on one side. Maybe one block got beaten up or got lost, or somebody carved on the back of it for something else, or who knows? It was business. That the famous book, the Hokusai manga, that maybe many of you have heard about, that was published. It's early 1800s through to the 50s. I don't know the numbers. And that block set was sold off and reprinted, and new names cut in for bits of it, and a different colophon put in. And as people spend like their whole academic career trying to track down all the different versions of it, The concept of copyright, there wasn't one at this time in Edo, Japan. I guess it perhaps not even in the West. I don't know when copyright came in as a concept in the West. But in this area in Japan, the 1800s, there was absolutely no copyright. They had the word, and it wasn't copyright. The word was hanken. And it literally means block right, as in, I got the blocks, I'm going to print this and sell this. If somebody else doesn't have the blocks, he doesn't have the right to it. So it was block ownership, block right was the same concept as copyright. There was no copyright anywhere at all in the sense that the designer could have any say in it. He was a hired gun. Draw me a sketch, here's your check, go. The publisher, if he pays a carver to carve the blocks, he's invested that money. He now owned that thing lock, stock, and barrel. Whereas these days, I own the printing blocks to the Heroes series, the Rickshaw Cart print and the Star Fox print. They are my blocks, my pieces of wood. I carved them, I paid for their production, I own them. But the modern way, I don't own the image, I don't have the IP. Of course, that's Jed Henry's, and the deal we have is that I'm the manufacturer of the things. I make them up, and we send them all to him, and he signs them, and he and I have a deal, If I'm selling them in the shop here, we sell them here and pay him a royalty. If he's selling on his website, he buys the physical prints from us at a wholesale rate. So I own the blocks, and he owns the IP. It's like Apple and Foxconn, I guess, whatever. Apple owns the thing, the concept, the rights, all the designs, and somebody else makes it. I don't know how they pay each other or how the money goes back and forth. I don't know. But back in the old Edo time, there was nothing. If you had the production method, the blocks, then you owned that thing outright. Did I hear that question sound? I think I did. Oh, 2 questions. Somebody's put theirs in capital letters. Yeah, I mentioned this half an hour. Oh no, that wasn't half an hour ago. The fine line carving from Ito-san. That's coming as part of this project when I carve her face. And as I mentioned, we will definitely make that a special event, not just run it through in the Twitch one day and you blink and you missed it. We are going to make a specific video, and I will use this block as the source material for it. And I think what's going to happen is I'm going to do it twice. I don't know if I should talk about this or not yet. I'm not really sure about it. This block is okay, but it's not all that hard actually. And these hairs, they're around 3 per millimeter. And I'm going to be able to carve them, but they might end up being a bit spongy for printing. And we are going to be expected to make a whole bunch of copies of this print, I think. So what I might do is I'll carve it once here on the block just to get it all lined up and proper and sorted out and doing the color blocks. And then I think I'll prepare a piece of boxwood separately and carve the face and hair, her mouth and nose and hairlines, separately again on a boxwood block. Really, really brittly hard wood. And then test that, and if that's okay, carve the lines off this block and do the printing from the 2 blocks separately. Anyway, long story short, we are absolutely planning. I've been waiting for years for this chance. And the hairlining on this block is going to be the long-awaited how to carve ukiyo-e hair. And there was a second one. I don't know. This next question is referring to the apprenticeships in the old days. I think it's a few, how long would it take? What did a boy do at the beginning? How many years would he have spent there? And I just simply have to say, I don't have the slightest idea. Young boys did go for apprenticeship. Some boys ended up staying in the same workshop all their lives. Some broke off to set up their own workshops. Some married the boss's daughter. We know just that these things happened, but there's absolutely no documentation of any kind on this. We're not even talking about people who were literate. These were rough trade craftsmen, so they're not the kind of people that left long literary letters to people documenting what they were doing. So no, I don't have a clue. I can speak about some very general things here. A really flourishing workshop, a large-scale workshop, would have had work going on at all different kinds of levels. Meaning, it was making... I got to decide where to go next here. Let's go down here. Or let's go down. This is her right hand. Let's do this one. It's actually mostly empty space, but it's still got to be done. Okay. Sorry, a big flourishing workshop had work of many different levels. They might be doing literally food wrappers for some of the, the lunchbox service next door, whatever. They might have been doing, labels for the nearby temple. They might have a bunch of guys upstairs working on making books. Maybe even also there was some skilled men in the workshop there. They're doing ukiyo-e prints as well, whatever. There was all kinds of level available. This was the printing business of the day. It was the printing business. It wasn't the art business. So all the town's printing, posters, flyers, news sheets, magazines, books, ukiyo-e prints, food wrappers, everything came out of these workshops. What the point I'm trying to make is that there was really complicated work, there was medium level work, and there was dead simple work. Food wrappers, one color dry paper. You give anybody 15 minutes of practice and he's ready to print food wrappers. So the point being that a boy coming in to a printing workshop, a big major printing workshop, he could be productive from day one. They didn't get much for those food wrappers, I'm sure, but whatever, they're not paying the kid much. I'm sure it all balanced out, of course, And then each kid, I don't have any documentation for this, but this is just human nature, how things work. Each kid will rise to his own level. I remember reading a long time ago, there's this thing called the Peter Principle. And in some sort of Western corporate situation, people get promoted because they're good at something, and they get promoted because they're good at the next stage. And eventually they get to something actually they're not very good at, and that's where they get stuck because they're not good at it. They don't get promoted anymore. So the point about that was that everybody ends up at a level of incompetence because they've been promoted past what they can do. Now, there's no way that's going to happen in a print workshop. The kid's good at food wrappers, and the guy says, holy crap, that kid's fast. He looks good. Here, let's try him with this. You try him with something a bit more difficult. The kid eats it up away he goes, eats it up. You can see where we're going with this. There's never-ending work, and everybody can rise to the level. And there's no way he'd get promoted past this level. The master one day might try. I wonder if we should try him on this. The kid tries it. It's no good, maybe. The level of incompetence we're talking about. Then the guy says, okay, no problem, back to where you were yesterday. So nobody would be at a level of incompetence. They'd always be at the level of their best possible work. I'm assuming that there's work, constantly available at all these different levels. So how long does the guy's apprenticeship last? If he's just a worker who's going to be hired by this workman, there's nothing to say. He came in on day one, he was earning from day one, and he'll just stay there till he retires. And there wouldn't have been any formal, you are no longer an apprentice. He's just a worker. But then there must have been some system also for either splitting off to different workshops or some kid quitting on his own right and saying, geez, I can do this by myself. Or maybe some kid who's good at this, the master would look at him and say, okay, look, we're getting too much work for us. We need to set up a subsidiary workshop. I think you can handle this for me now. Where you go, take our name, We don't know. We don't have any kind of documentation. But it means I don't have a simple answer. How long was an apprenticeship? No idea. Now that's all printing I'm talking about, because from day one the kid could do something, food wrappers. But now we switch to the carving workshop, which is a different place in most cases, and it's not happening in the same building, it's not the same people. It's a carver's workshop. It's also got all kinds of different levels of work. There's people carving those food wrappers, carving the labels for the temples, and this and that, and this and that, and this and that. But rather than a single person being at a different level, how can I explain this? A carving job wouldn't be carved by one person. The printing job, that food label is printed by one guy sitting there. But the carving jobs were not done entirely by one person. This block we're doing right now, there's no way the guy who is good enough to carve that hair and her crotch hair and stuff, there's no way that guy is going to waste his time carving all these dots. So any given piece of work would have been split up by different people. And not to lose my thread here, that boy that comes in on his first day, he doesn't even know how to hold a freaking knife. It's not like the printing. There's no food wrapper that you can learn to carve on the first day because you don't know how to cut, how to sharpen, how to move your knife. You don't know what you're doing. So for carvers, there is definitely an unproductive period of X days, X months before you're contributing to the work. So absolutely there must have been a specific, well-documented and well-understood system of apprenticeship, because the kid's going to get his $5 a month or whatever it was they gave him, even when he's not productive. And there must have been a deal where after a few weeks or a couple of months the master can see, oh geez, this kid is not going to be able to handle this. Out you go, goodbye, next. Or he can see this guy's going to be able to do it. And again, I have no documentation, I'm sorry. No idea. I can't put any numbers on it. You hear about the European guilds or something where someone's trying to do this or that and they had a documented 7-year or whatever it was. And it was a contract. The kid's parents, whatever, signed a contract. The kid's going to be there for 7 years, get this, get that, and do this and do that when he's on the way out. And I don't believe, at least in this woodblock printing world, I don't believe there was any such documented system here. We have the word deshi, which translates as apprentice, but I don't believe it was anything like a documented guild system like the Europeans had. whatever. Somebody can Google it up and whatever, I don't know. This blade is holding up really nicely. Some of the guys I met, some of them who are still alive and some who are dead, after I became a bit friendly with them, I'd ask them questions about some of this stuff, some things that people are asking me. I've asked, a number of the craftsmen that I've known over the years here, what was it like on your first day in the job and stuff, And that's nothing to do with Edo period practice. These people are all men who started in the post-war period. Or Ito-san, he started pre-war, but whatever. And most of them, they don't talk so much about it, but a couple of them, there's one guy, he's dead now, Seki-san. He ran his motorbike into the back of a parked car a few years back. He's a super fine printer, but whatever. And he talked about this stuff. He loved to talk about this stuff. And actually, I had to be careful because you could see, as he's telling these stories, you could see that this story is being, there's a story here, and how much was what really happened to him, and how much is a story. Because, he's got this foreigner here who's drinking this in, and I'm biting this hook. He's going to reel me in, how much will I believe, And he tells a story about the first day on his job. And actually, it sounds actually pretty true. And another printer I met, Kubota-san, I sort of relayed this story to him, and he said, yeah, that's pretty much the same as it was on my first day too. So, and what they did with the guy, what the master did with Seki-san, and this was in the workshop of the Yokoi workshop, which was a really, really top level place. There was no food wrappers there. This was an ukiyo-e workshop. And this would have been in the 60s, ukiyo-e boom, where they had a crap load of work to do, and they're bringing in new people, and they just got to get going, and there's no time to explain anything. Anyway, Seki-san says, I'm going to paraphrase it, I can't remember his exact words. He says, he's there on the first day, they've got a bench ready for him. And he says the paper's on it. Paper's usually prepared the day before. You moisten the paper the evening before, ready for printing on any given day. But this is his first day in the job. And he said the master had prepared his paper the day before. And I remember he told me, he said there's 400 sheets. It's a print of whatever, 5 or 6 colors. 400 sheets are in there. 400 freaking sheets are in there. And the blocks are standing right there. The pigments are waiting for him. And the guy just says, get started. And Seki-san, the way they tells the story, he's like, well, what do I do? What do I do? And the guy says, get started. The longer you sit there looking at me, you got to get that thing done before you leave here tonight. So don't waste any more time. Get to it. And Seki-san, he's embellishing this story, making it as dramatic as he can. But that's it, the story. He sits down at the bench, and the kid next to him sort of gives him a few little whispered hints and what to do. And Seki-san starts working. You can see what the guy beside you is doing. Woodblock printmaking is not rocket science. It's not brain surgery. There's a piece of wood. It's already been carved. There's the color. Slap some color on with a brush. Pull a piece of paper out. Rub it. You got it. So he starts. And, whatever. Maybe the kid next to him whispers a hint here and there. And he's going along. And the way he tells the story is the master comes over like an hour later or half an hour later or something and says, let's see. All right, and he takes a quick count. 25 sheets, first color. Okay, take a look at the clock over there, boy. You finished the first color, 25 sheets. There's 400 in that stack, and you got 4 colors to do before you go home tonight. What do you think about this? Do some math. Like Seki-san looks at the clock and realizes that at the pace he's going, it's going to be like 3 days' work or something. And this guy's serious. You're not leaving here until you do this. And I can believe the core of this story because it's a super, super, super important lesson here. The master goes back to his bench and Seki-san looks at the clock and, okay, it took me 10 seconds to do that one, do some math. I got to get these things done in 3 seconds each, or whatever the number is. I'm just making this up. And you get going, you get going, you get going, and you don't fool around, you don't blink, you don't do nothing. You get moving and you try and look at that clock and figure out how to get that done. You take the brush, swoop, 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 bang, swoop, swoop, bang, away you go, bang. And if you do that from your first day, and Kubota-san too, he said the same thing. This was his earliest, first, most single, absolute, most important lesson. Don't dick around. Get moving. Go, go, go. Don't stop. And both of those men emphasized this. And whatever, the end of the Seki-san story is he's sort of flying through this stuff. He's, of course, making a total fiasco of it. He was flying through this stuff, getting faster and faster and trying to do this and making a mess and dropping this. And he doesn't get it done. The other guys are all leaving at whatever time they're leaving. The master comes home and says, well, I got 400 done yet? And it's obvious he hasn't. But he's done something presentable here. He's got his way through this. And the guy's, okay, bugger off, finish this tomorrow. Seki-san goes home, totally exhausted. Gets back there tomorrow, whatever time it is, they do these things. And whatever, sometime during the morning he gets it finished. Master comes over, takes a look at it, grabs his knife, cuts the whole stack just in half and says, whatever. Seki-san tells it with a bunch of swear words. You know, the guy's like, if you think we're going to beep, 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 this stuff, beep, beep to our customers, you've got another beep, beep coming. Takes his knife, cuts it in half, says, that paper's coming out of your pay this month. Here's your next stack of paper. Moisten it yourself. Get going. And again, how vividly real this is or how much it's embellished, I don't know. But the core of it is absolutely true. Absolutely true. You got to be good. You got to be fast. And Seki-san, by the time I knew him, he was absolutely the best printer in town, bar none. None of the other printers would ever admit that because he was a black sheep. There's lots of stories about him. But he was so freaking good and so fast. And me and our printers, whatever, we work here. These are a bunch of young ladies who've come to us. And I myself, I'm not a supercharged printer like Seki-san became. I'm a dilettante. I never went through that kind of training. I can't give you a number how fast am I compared to him. Meaningless to say, whatever, half his speed or something. I don't know, whatever, no idea. Because I did this. Remember, you've seen that video with me and Ito-san. Ito-san saying to me, it's a hobby for you, you know. And absolutely Seki-san too. He never said that to me, but it's exactly the same situation. He's looking at me. This kid doesn't know dick all. It's a hobby for me. And even now as I carve, I'm very, very much slower than those guys. It's a different world and different priorities, and I didn't go through that training. I'm not ashamed of the fact that I'm slower than them. That's fine. It's a different world. But when I look at my women upstairs, Aimi-san, nice girl, but oh my God, I just drop my head in shame sometimes when I think of what they're doing up there. They dabble a color on and dabble a color on, and they take 2 days to do a set of Chibihiro's prints that have like 5 colors. And Seki-san would have done that before taking a tea break, the whole damn thing, you know. He was a funny guy. He sure liked money. Boy, oh boy, he sure liked money. But boy, could he print. I've been forgetting to copy this. You like the lack of white noise, do you? Shall I praise you some more? know, the person making the comment about the lack of white noise is the person who taught me how to get rid of it, so it's okay. So thank you. This, I know, I haven't been following the chat so carefully, but it seems quite light tonight. This morning it was a pretty busy stream. Looking at the Twitch statistics and stuff, it seems the morning streams are well over 100 people sometimes. I think it was 120 this morning, I'm not sure. The evening ones are less because, our American friends are all asleep, I guess, at this time of day. And this seems crazy to me. When I was doing my streaming first back in Ome 4 or 5 years ago, like we'd get, 3 people on a session. All of them were friends, people I knew, So this is still going to take me some time to wrap my head around, Now the dots get a bit more difficult here because these dots are now a bit more spaced out and spread around, and the more isolated they are, the more work they are, because you've got to work on every one individually. So let's do the same thing. Let's block them off first. Get close to them. Make an island with dots. Also, I've got to block that off. Look at this. We're up to her hair already here. Yeah, as you'll see later, this black hair here, this is her long black hair. And this has to be blacker than the key block. We want a good jet black on the length of her hair and on the hair on the top of her head. Excuse me, it has to be black, black, black. But the key lines of this print are going to be sort of grayish, and the hair on the side of her face, her hair, nose and mouth, it can't be jet black. That'll be a softer gray. So there'll be 2 hair blocks for this print. There'll be the key block, which will have this black zone you're seeing me rub against here. This will be on the key block, and then black will also appear on this print as a color. You can see this if you look to that one we were looking at earlier, the Wikipedia copy, or on my octopus print website. You'll see that black there's 2 levels of black on this print. Black as the key block, which is fairly faint and light, and then black as a color, and this is really common in ukiyo-e prints. Because you want rich black hair or rich black pattern on a kimono or something, but you can't put the key lines in rich black. So you're in for 2 of them. So I heard the a long question. Yeah, a question about our blocks, and it's a 2-part question. I know, would we ever sell our blocks? And no, of course not. I know, as we mentioned before, to own the blocks is to own the capability to print them. And I can't imagine ever selling these blocks. People ask all the time, can I buy one? And in fact, we've had an experience just a couple of months ago. I'm not sure if I should tell us. It sounds a bit like I'm making fun of somebody, but whatever. To tell the story without any names. I don't even know his name. I know we use the word woodblock in two ways. I know this piece of wood in front of me right now is a woodblock. It's a woodblock, and we're going to make woodblock prints from it. But sometimes in generic discussion, people ask, what do you do for a living? I make woodblocks, meaning as in I make the woodblock prints. So like, is that a silk screen? No, this is a woodblock. And we're talking about the piece of paper with the design on it. Is that a silk screen? No, it's a woodblock. So the word is used in English in that sense too. And we got an order a while back for one of our woodblocks. The guy ordered from the website, and he got a woodblock print, the piece of paper, and he asked for his money back. He said, I ordered a woodblock. And he thought actually he was going to be getting a piece of wood for the $35 or whatever it was. So it's okay. I mean, there's misunderstandings. I'm not trying to make somebody out to be an idiot. He just didn't know the language and what was on. Yeah, so when I say, will I sell my woodblocks, I will sell the pictures, but not the pieces of wood. And then, of course, that brings to mind then, it's another part of this gentleman's question here, is that can I think forward to what will happen in the future? And I would like to think, of course, that our business here will be an ongoing thing. It'll continue. I'm 65. I've got X years left, whatever that number turns out to be. We don't know. My daughters are not interested in the slightest thing. But we are trying to build our business now into a stable form. Especially now with a new manager coming and Dave not doing the other jobs, we're trying to build our business into a structure and a form that will continue beyond my personal existence. And actually, without wanting to tip it off, we're probably going to set it up as a foundation rather than a company. And we've already got half of the investigation done on the legal aspect about that. And foundations are interesting in that they're not owned by people. They exist, they're a legal thing, but they're not like a company which has shareholders, Mr. X owns X shares of such and such a company. So if you're a company, you still have to be concerned with who owns this. And the employees here do not want to own the place. Japanese people just don't think like that. So one idea for me was to set it up as an employee-owned company, with me having, X% of the stock, the employees having X% of stock. And unanimously, I got, no thanks, no thanks, no thanks. We don't want to do that. So here in Japan, they have foundations, the same as they do anywhere. And when you set up a foundation, you capitalize it, you run it, you hire managers, it's all set to go. And it's not actually owned by anybody. So if I die and I'm gone, you've got a continuity problem, you've got a manager problem. You still have to run the thing, it still has to operate, it still has to work. But there's no longer a problem. If it's a foundation, remember, this thing we're doing now, there's two questions. One is ownership and one is management, owning the thing and operating the thing. And as a foundation, ownership becomes a zero question, and management, of course, is a never-ending question. So I think we're going to do that. It could even be as soon as next spring we'll become a foundation. So if we do it well, and if I train some people well, and away we go and we get stable, then Dave one day doesn't wake up in the morning, there we are, the thing continues without him. It'll be a different place, but there's no reason why it can't continue. But having said that, I'm not so sure if I can be so optimistic, because we have 3 or 4 examples here. We have the Watanabe Print Company, started by Shozaburo Watanabe back in, I don't know the date, it's 19-teens or early 1920s. Well, actually, maybe the incorporation was earlier, late 1800s. Anyway, Watanabe Company from the early 20th century. We have the Doi Hanga Company, which was the 1920s, started by Doi Sadaichi. We have the Adachi Company, started in the Taisho era by Adachi Toyohisa. These are the woodblock companies, né? We have the Yuyudo Company. I don't know the name of the founder. It's a generation before the guy who's got it now. So there they are. There's these companies. Watanabe is now on its 3rd generation, and it is a shell of what it used to be. The current management doesn't understand prints, doesn't understand printing. Am I going to get in trouble? Whatever. This is broadcast. Anyway, whatever. It's opinion. It's fair enough. They don't get it. There's no interesting creative work being done. It's a shell. They've got their real estate. They sell tourist prints, but it's a shell. Doi Company, those of you who follow our videos know what happened there. This was too bad. The original owner, he got hit by the war. So the war set it really back. He himself died. His son was killed during the war. Grandson took it over. Didn't know what he was doing. And now we have a granddaughter who is a nice lady, but anyway, whatever. It's a shell of a company. It's a garage with blocks. Adachi, he didn't do anything at all to move into the next generation. He adopted a boy who is the current runner of Adachi, and he's now 80 something, no idea, 80 high number, and he's done absolutely nothing about putting a next generation in place. And they're already a shell. Their top experienced printers have retired. There's nobody in their 70s, nobody in their 60s, nobody in their 50s, nobody in their 40s. They have nothing left but the young people they hire fire with the money they get from government subsidies. So they're done in 2 generations. So Watanabe was done in 3 generations, Doi Hangaten was done in 3 generations, Adachi's done in 2 generations. You get what I'm getting at. The track record is not good. The founder, Sho Saburo Watanabe, Toyohisa Adachi, Doi Sadaichi. These guys had vision. They knew what they wanted. They made wonderful stuff. They screamed and yelled at people till it was done right. They made the investments. Next generation comes along and you're done. So I don't know. I'm 65. I'm trying to make these people drink as much of this stupid Kool-Aid as I can to try and show them the beautiful Meiji prints. Try and show them how woodblock prints used to be a part of people's lives. Try and show them how it can be a really satisfying, wonderfully satisfying way to make a living. But only if you do it properly. If you do it well, hold yourself to high standards. Hold yourself to a standard that you can't actually reach, but then make sure people understand what's wrong when you don't get there, you know. And is that something that's going to disappear when I take off? I don't know. I won't be here to tell, and I won't care because I won't be here. And I didn't name this place with my name. I didn't call it, you know, Doi-san called it the Doi Hunger Company. Watanabe-san called it Watanabe Print Company. Adachi-san called it the Adachi Hunger Company. I didn't do that, and I won't do that. I want this to be something more generic that everybody here can share in and take part in and contribute to and feel like it's theirs. But I don't know. Is that happening? I don't know. The customers and collectors and friends are drinking more Kool-Aid than the staff is drinking. Really? So I forget, what was the question? Yeah. Is there going to be a garage door opening one day? Some young guy in 2149 or whatever, make up a date you want to. Got some guys opening up a forgotten storage locker somewhere, and inside it are the blocks for Fox Moon and Rickshaw Cart and those Ukiyo Heroes prints, and the guy's going to say, "Oh my God, I found them." What is there going to be that story? Or how's it going to play out? You know, I have no idea. Actually, I'm terrified of seeing that. I don't want to see that. I don't want to know about it. I don't think people are going to get tired of analog stuff, you know, the part we play in society. The fact that we are so strongly analog in a world that has now gone in a really different direction. But there's no reason why this business should disappear if the people who are running it keep some core principles in mind, you know. Do as good work as you can, honor the people who are, you know, who are supporting you. Make sure they know exactly what you're doing, why you're doing it, how you're doing it, and when you're doing it. Don't try and bamboozle them. And they'll stay with you even when you fail. But you got to communicate. You got to communicate to them. Ooh, that's hardwood right there. Be careful. I guess every day I say the same thing. As it comes near closing time, it's so dangerous for breakage and stuff. You know. I'll finish this batch here, these dots. I'm getting hungry. I don't think I'm audibly hungry. The other day I was growling into the microphone, but so I'll finish these dots and then sign off. Go get my dinner. It's been a long one tonight, I think. Is it? What time is it now? 7:30. I've been at this for 2 hours. Time flies when you're having fun. Absolutely, I'm going to have missed a bunch of this chat because I didn't copy enough of it. Is the music audible? You know, the music that comes from next door, from the antique shop. He's got it cranked up quite a bit tonight. He's playing like pre-war saxophone ballads tonight. But I don't know if it leaks into my microphone or not. I don't know. When he's doing that, I can't do any YouTube work here because whenever there's the slightest bit of music in the background, YouTube's stuff grabs it and starts mumbling about copyright infringements and monetization and crap. But so I don't know about Twitch. I hope that music doesn't get picked up. You know. Ooh, wrong way. Yeah, it's Inca style stuff. So exactly, it's no. He's using what's the word? With no vocals. Instrumental music. But it's Inca style instrumental music. Okay, here's a question about your websites. Do you create your own websites, and how did you learn web design? Both things are in one. I've created them all. I do all my own web work, and of course I haven't. So they're chaos. They're absolute chaos. I know. It's such a burden for us right now. First website of mine went on 1997, and some of those pages are still there. You know, font size +1, blah blah. There was no such thing as CSS back there, or it wasn't common. So yeah, I do all the web work, and bit by bit, we're trying to drag back pages of the website online. We've built ourselves. I've written a small CMS system here for managing the newer web pages. And the old stuff used to be awful, god-awful HTML, and now it's all run through a more dynamic system, PHP scripts running in the background. All the newer pages are responsive. They work on mobile and stuff. But everything that I did before the past 3 or 4 years has been, it's archaic and needs to be rewritten. There's about 20,000 pages in there. The woodblock.com website, the Mokuhankan.com website, their relative Japanese sites, mokuhankan.jp, the Astoria Week website, which is not so bad because I rewrote that with a new CMS. But yeah, simple question. I do it myself, and the staff here is trying to get me to let go and turn it over to somebody else, but I really don't want to do that, you know. But because I've ignored them so much, it's totally, absolutely chaotic in there, you know. Web used to be so simple, but now it's just so... And every time I pick a new framework, a while back when I did one of my websites for the art series, I broke down and started using a JavaScript framework. I chose jQuery, which I thought was a sensible choice. And now I see it's being, you know, shunned to the side. Every time you bet on a horse, you know. I like the programming stuff, I really do. I know I'm in the middle of doing something here that you don't see it as people out there, but we have an internal control thing we're building for Mokuhankan. That's just, it's big data for our own business, and it's all the orders and subscription prints and the subscription billing and the payments coming through, and it's coming together very, very well. Half of it runs natively on my Mac here as an Apple app, and the back end part runs up on the net. And the two communicate to each other, and the women in our Ome workshop get the invoices and stuff all automatically. And our system, if we had to hire someone to do the kind of system we have, we could not possibly afford it. So. I spend half my time studying web security, just what I need as a carver, you know. All the scripts I've got, you know, that need input. Each time you figure out you've protected against the latest hacking crap, something else comes along. Okay, is that what I said I'd do in this corner? Because I am one hungry little black duck here. It's been good. It's been a nice session. You know? I was a bit quiet there at the beginning. I'm sorry, and I screwed up some of the questions, I think. But I think we're good to go. Thank you for coming along. Thank you for listening or watching, whatever it is. Schedule. Today is Saturday. So what's happening now? Tomorrow's Sunday. It's rainy, I think. So the shop should be quiet. So I'll be here definitely in the morning for an 8 o'clock session. I may or may not be here for an evening session like this starting at 5:30 Japanese time, 2 hours ahead of where we are right now. Then I'll repeat that for Monday, and Tuesday will be off. I won't be here Tuesday, so 2 days down the line from here I'll be off for a day. Anyway, that's it for now. Thank you very much for watching and listening, and I'm going to sign off, get some dinner. See you next time. Stop streaming.